First of the midweek games then, and this one, Leicester at home to Brighton. Now, in the stands was the new Leicester manager, Brendan Rodgers. They'd snapped him up from Celtic, and he was full of promises in his first press conference. To the game anyway, Knockaert had his first start for Brighton since December. Gray was back up front with Vardy, and it was that man Gray on 9 minutes who managed to get onto a Tielemans pass, and he finished in real style with a neat shot to put the Foxes ahead by 1-0. 13 minutes, Gray nearly doubled his lead, but Ryan made a good low save. Then on 25 minutes, Gross shot got a slight deflection, but Schmeichel was strong enough to push it wide and over. On 35 minutes, though, Schmeichel needed to bring out his best to prevent a fierce strike from Knockaert. That was the first half. Then towards the end of it, Brighton were on the front foot and pushing the Foxes at the back. Anyway, 1-0 at the break, second half, and the first chance for Vardy headed wide shortly after the resumption. That was on 46 minutes. Up the other end, Murray managed to put the ball over from 2 yards out after it would have been easier to score. He was set up by a neat backheel from Gross. Then on 62 minutes, a neat bit of teamwork by Leicester. Maddison linked up with Vardy in the box, and his strike was just too powerful, and he tucked it in the near post for 2-0. That brought a smile from the new manager in the stands. 64 minutes though, Brighton, who always looked like they had a goal in them, and Duffy headed wide from a corner. And then on 65 minutes, Propper managed to finish off a neat move to reduce the arrears to 2-1. After that, Barnes should have sealed it with another goal, but then 2 minutes from the end, Murray, who'd had a bad night really, had a golden chance to level things, but he managed to hit the side netting. So there was a much needed win for the Foxes. Leicester winning this by 2-1. So to the Cardiff City Stadium then, and Everton were the visitors. Some team news. Jagielka was in for the suspended Zuma. We haven't seen too much of him this season. And Schneiderlin was also in midfield. Calvert-Lewin started up front in place of Tozen. And the first chance came to Cardiff following a Jagielka error, but it wasn't taken. 11 minutes, Walcott up the other end flashed a shot wide, and then a few minutes later he had another opportunity, and this time his shot was just over. The rest of the half, not a lot to report, but then on 40 minutes, a nice sweeping move by Everton. Coleman on the overlap, and his pass into the box was met by Sigurdsson, who slid the ball in the corner, and the Toffees went into the break 1-up. 65 minutes now, and Everton certainly gaining in confidence. A great run by Bernard, got to the byline, and his cross was laid on a plate for that man Sigurdsson, who whipped the ball past Etheridge, and that was 2-0 to the Toffees. By this stage, Cardiff seemed to have ran out of gas, and inevitably, with a confident performance by Everton, in the last minute there was a break, and Calvert-Lewin finished off a nice pass to make it 3-0. Relief for Silva then, Everton back to winning ways. They took this game and won it by 3-0. So to St James's Park, Newcastle at home to the informed Burnley. Manquillo was in for Yedlin, but all eyes are on Almiron after his great performance on debut at the weekend. Of course, Newcastle were reminded about the importance of Barnes and Wood, trying to keep them quiet. Anyway, 16 minutes, an early effort by Almiron that went just wide, got the St James's Park faithful up and running. And then on 23 minutes, Newcastle moving forward purposefully, and the ball was picked up by Shah just outside the penalty area, and he hit an absolute blockbuster which hit the top corner of the net, leaving Heaton with no chance. The place erupted and Newcastle were safely in front by 1-0. 26 minutes, Dubrovka made a good stop to deny Wood, and but then on 37 minutes Newcastle doubled their lead through the industrious Longstaff with a great half volley, finishing off from a cross from Ritchie. So 2-0 then to Newcastle. 44 minutes, Tarkowski should have pulled one back for Burnley, but mysteriously his effort was very poor and it skied over the top. And then in added time, Rondon had a header that just went wide. After the break, there was very little to report. Burnley seemed to lack energy. Newcastle were content with what they got, and so there we have it. Another win for the Geordies by 2-0. Final game on Tuesday then was at the John Smith Stadium, Huddersfield at home to Wolves. So early chance for the Terriers on 5 minutes from a hog shot, but it was deflected wide. Wolves looked a bit subdued, but on 25 minutes Jota pulled the ball back but from the byline, but Doherty failed to hit the target. That was about it in the first half, but the second half was really all Huddersfield. Stankovic's header from a corner was held by Patricio a minute after the break, and then on 57 minutes Muniz managed to hit the side netting. A poor effort, but they continued pressing forward, and they were creating half chances. On 84, another effort wide from Muniz, and it looked like it was going to peter out into a goalless draw. And then in added time, finally a goal from the said Muniz after a great save from Wolves' keeper following a corner. Amazingly, Seves had got his win. He was delirious almost on the touchline. A very poor performance from Wolves. But anyway, Huddersfield, rare to say it, won this one by 1-0. So to Wednesday's fixtures. Let's head straight to Anfield. It's amazing what a few days can do in football. These two sides contrasting form at the weekend. Watford runaway winners 5-1, and Liverpool struggling against an injured Man U. Well, they strode out in Anfield to a rapturous round of applause, and it took only a matter of minutes for the Liverpool attack to get going. On 5 minutes, pinpoint Arnold cross was anticipated wonderfully by Mane, getting between the two defenders, and he headed it in majestically for 1-0. It didn't take that much longer for him to add his second, and an audacious back heel, finishing off another cross from Arnold after his initial control, Mane's that is, had been not that good. Tenacious Salah in the build-up to that cross. Then on 27 minutes, Salah himself hit a strike, but he managed to find Foster. Salah again on 36 minutes hit a post after he escaped his marker. And then the first real attack for Watford on 41 minutes, Delafea was set up Deeney, but he managed to push his effort wide. So it was 2-0 at the break. On 49 minutes, Salah terrorising the right side of Watford's defence, and Messina, the defender at left back, having a torrid time. Then on 62 minutes, Mane had a chance of his hat-trick, but his effort was blocked superbly by Cathcart, and the chance flew over. Origi was on, and on 65 minutes, he managed to make his way in from the left. The defenders kept on backing off, and he then created a yard, and he hit a crisp shot just inside the left-hand post with Foster struggling. So it was 3-0, game over. 73 minutes, there was a couple of efforts from Gray on within 60 seconds of each other. The first one Alisson dealt with comfortably, and then the one on 76 minutes, Alisson managed to tip the effort over. And then we got to the point in the show where the centre-half Van Dijk fancied his chances, and on 79 minutes from a free kick by Arnold, who'd been superb throughout, Van Dijk rose above the defence and headed the ball home for 4-0. He wasn't content with that, because 3 minutes later, a Robertson cross, and he'd made it 5-0 from another header. Klopp was absolutely delighted. Liverpool back in form, striding to the championship. Well, maybe. Anyway, they took this game by 5-0. So to Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace versus Manchester United. Solskjaer ran the changes as anticipated after all the injuries. Dalot was in at right back, which pushed Young up into midfield, and Sanchez and Fred were in for Rashford and Herrera. Anyway, 7 minutes, a corner from Shaw was met by Lukaku, but somehow he managed to push his effort wide and over. A few minutes later, another gilt-edged opportunity for Townsend at the other end had the same fate as Lukaku's. And then on 26 minutes, Townsend's left foot drive went just wide. Minute 32 then, and after a great jinking run by Shaw, where the Palace defence continually backed off, he eventually got to the edge of the area and clipped a neat little ball into Lukaku, whose right foot shot went into the corner. 1-0 for United. Minute later, Slop beat the offside track, and he managed to head wide of De Gea when it should have been the equaliser. Then that was about it in the first half. Into the second half, and Dalot's cross was headed over by Pogba on 46 minutes. And then on 51 minutes, great goal by the Red Devils, set up from a corner. Smalling got the initial header. The second header was met by Lindelof, and Lukaku managed to do a sort of hook around the corner effort, and it went in the corner. So that was 2-0 to United. 57 minutes then. A piercing run by Sahar, managed to get to the byline, but he tried to sneak it in De Gea's inside post, and De Gea was having none of it as he pushed it wide for a corner. But then on 64 minutes, Palace managed to get some reward from good work from Klopp, led to a cross, and Ward popped up with the header to bring it back to 2-1. 74 minutes, the keeper saved a free kick from Pogba, but then the points were secured on 83 when a delightful through ball by Pogba on the right flank. Young anticipated it beautifully, ran into the box and hit a vicious strike inside the right corner. That made it 3-1, game over, and Solskjaer absolutely delighted. So final score at Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace 1, Manchester United 3. So to the Etihad, Manchester City, fresh from their triumph at Wembley, securing the Carabao Cup, were at home to West Ham. Mahrez was in for Sterling. Sané was also on the bench. Carroll and Nasri were in for West Ham with Hernandez on the bench. No Arnautovic, not quite sure why. Anyway, the pattern of the match was established very early on. Early chance for Mahrez set up by Silva, but he managed to skewer it wide. That was 3 minutes. There were lots and lots of half chances. De Bruyne's shot went just wide. At 25 minutes, Aguero's effort hit a defender and just went wide. And amazingly, we got to the break with the game goalless. West Ham certainly riding their luck, but defiant defensively, I must say. Second half then, and then a rare chance for the Hammers. Lanzini managed to set up Carroll, and his effort looked like it was heading for the corner, but Ederson, who hadn't done a thing all game, produced a miraculous save. Then on 57 minutes, Silva was bundled over in the penalty area by Anderson and I think another defender. The penalty was given and Aguero stepped up, and that was 1-0. After that, it was more of the same. Fabianski produced some great saves. Fredriksson got in the way of other efforts. Danilo had a great effort, saved low down by Fabianski on 79. Sterling and Sané came on. Sterling had an effort pushed wide, but the second goal never materialised. Having said that, West Ham never looked like scoring after that Carroll effort. So the champions managed to squeeze out a 1-0. Final score, Man City 1, West Ham 0. So to Stamford Bridge, and a big clash, London derby against Spurs. No surprises that Kappa had been dropped, replaced by Caballero in goal for Chelsea. Nothing else really much on the team news, although Lamela was in for Spurs. Anyway, 5 minutes gone, Higuain managed to hit a post after a Kovacic header. 18 minutes, and a clearance by Lloris was dreadful. Picked up by Chelsea and fed to Higuain, but he managed to shoot wide. Should have done better. And on 23 minutes, the first real attack by Spurs, but it was cleared easily by the defence. A little later, Caballero had to extend himself by blocking a Spurs shot. We got to 41 minutes and Kane's first effort was deflected away by Azpilicueta, and then a couple of minutes from before half time, a ferocious strike by Winks was tipped onto the bar. So it was goalless at the break. Into the second half then, and Higuain did manage to get the ball in the net, but he was clearly offside. Then on 56 minutes, Pedro was put through on the right. He made a beeline for the goal, gave himself a yard of space, and his shot was too strong. It beat Lloris at his near post, and so Chelsea were 1-up. Pedro was then at the other end with a magnificent tackle to deny Eriksen, who'd weaved his way into the back box. Spurs were desperate for an equaliser, but then on 84 minutes, a horror show from the Spurs defence. Trippier's back pass managed to elude Lloris, and it trundled into the net. That was 2-0 to Chelsea. That was game over. Sarri was extremely happy, of course, that Chelsea were back to winning ways. They're still in the hunt for a top four, and we will see what happens from there on. Final score then, Chelsea 2, Spurs 0. So to the Emirates, Arsenal at home to Bournemouth. Emery rang the changes. Koscielny and Monreal were back at the back, and Ozil and Aubameyang were back in the starting lineup with Lacazette on the bench. For Bournemouth, Brooks, who'd been missing for a number of games, was back on the bench, but still no Wilson. King still up front for the Cherries. Well, Arsenal got off to a great start. 3 minutes and the ball was slotted cleverly into Ozil's path. He was in acres of space, and the advancing Boric, he clipped the ball over Boric's head. Boric did get a touch to it, but it still landed in the back of the net. Dreadful marking by Klein. Gunners 1-up. 8 minutes, Mkhitaryan was causing panic in the defence, and on 26 minutes Ozil set him up free in the box, and his strike hit the corner, and that was 2-0 to Arsenal. On 29 minutes though, Bournemouth were given a lifeline. Guendouzi was given the ball by Leno from the goal area and got caught in possession, and then the ball was passed to Mouzet, who quietly placed it past Leno into an empty goal, and it was back to 2-1. Guendouzi, trying to make amends for the error, hit a nice drive on 42 minutes, which was deflected wide. So 2-1 at the break. Second half, and a minute into the half, Mkhitaryan, who was having his best game for Arsenal, he managed to get to the byline. His cross was met by Koscielny. It was headed goalwards. Boric got a touch to it, but Aubameyang chasing him made sure, but it looked like it was Koscielny's goal. Ball looked over the line before Aubameyang got that touch. However, it was still 3-1 to the Gunners. Bournemouth hadn't had much to get excited about. Gosling did hit the bar on 56 minutes from a slight deflection, but then on 58 minutes Aubameyang finally got his goal. He scampered onto a pass from guess who, Mkhitaryan, and he rounded the goalkeeper, and that was 4-1. Lacazette came off the bench, and a free kick just outside the box. 77 minutes, a delightful free kick by Lacazette was clipped in the corner. The rout was complete, 5-1 for the Gunners. A really bad night for Eddie Howe's Bournemouth. Final score, Arsenal 5, Bournemouth 1. So the final match of this weekday roundup, it was at St Mary's, Southampton against next to bottom Fulham. English was up front with Redmond. Schürrle was back after his sickness. So Fulham had a front three of Schürrle, Mitrovic and Babel. The first goal came from Romfu for Southampton. His strike from the edge of the area hit the right hand corner. Mitrovic had a half chance to equalise, but he blasted it over. And Ward-Prowse followed up a Rique save from Redmond's cross to put the game beyond Fulham. 2-0 to Southampton. As you would gather, I didn't see too much of this game. Babel should have got one back, but managed to hit the bar. Final score then, Huzenthaler, Southampton 2, Fulham 0. It's as it were at the top. Liverpool are 1 point ahead of City, and at the bottom, a little progress from Huddersfield. They're only 3 points behind Fulham. The goal of this round, I'm going to give it to Shah for that extraordinary effort for Newcastle to open the scoring against Burnley. That's your lot. We'll be back with predictions on Friday. Another set of games coming up on Saturday.